Hello, my name is Odin Clack. I'm from Odin Leather Goods down in Dallas, Texas. One of the projects at nearly every project I have at some point has some moment where we're going to do some rivet setting. More often than not, I like to use rivets, solid brass or solid copper rivets with a burr. And I always get tons of questions about how do I do that. This is one of those skills that is very, very useful to do, whether you're doing bag making. I'm sure this is very useful in saddle making. I don't make saddles, I tend to make bags and other items, but I do set a lot of rivets. I prefer to use a very strong rivet, has a bit more of a craftsmanship tone to it. Can't beat what these solid copper and solid brass rivets provide you. So I'm gonna share that technique with you today. All right, so let's first take a look at the rivets that we're gonna be using today. These are the solid, well, this is a solid copper rivet and this is a solid brass rivet. More often than not, you're gonna see solid copper rivets, but today you're also seeing the introduction of a lot of these brass rivets being used in a lot of work. These brass rivets is typically what we use in our shop because it matches the brass hardware that we use. For today's demonstration purposes, we're going to look at the copper. Copper is a bit softer and easier to work with, and if you can get really good at doing copper rivets, you can also transition over to being really good at doing brass rivets. If you do enough of these brass rivets, like I have, the copper rivets are really, really simple. They look the same though. There's a head to it and a shaft, and it looks much like a little nail. It's not sharp on any end. And then these are paired up with burrs. There's an example of a rivet and a burr next to each other. They come in different sizes. I typically going to use this number 12 size. It's kind of a medium size. You can also get them where they're a bit smaller and a number 14, or you can go much larger where you go to like a number 9. Number 9s are really heavy duty burrs. And for my work, for bags, they're just a little too heavy. But if you're doing saddles and really big items, number 9 may be the rivet you want to go with. So how do you actually use these things? Well, one, you need to have your leather. I'm just going to use this. This looks like, I don't know, 9-10 ounce skirting, chestnut skirting. Let's punch a hole in this. And our goal here is going to be to put these two layers together cleanly, right? There is some debate about what is the front of the rivet and what is the back of the rivet. I would like to tell you that I believe it depends on what type of project you're doing and how good you want your rivets to look. Because this is the finished side, this is often used as the back, but I will often use this as a front if I want that to have a little bit more of a polished look on the item. Let's see if we can roll in there. These today we're using 3/4 inch length rivets. They also come in 1/2 inch length rivets, and they also come in a 1 inch length post length. You really don't want to go too much longer than what the thickness of the leather is. What will happen is if you do that, if you use a post that's a little too long, the rivet gets, the burr, once you put it on, it loosens up a little too much. So it's useful to keep that to be about the same size, all right? So we've got a little bit of overlap there. We're gonna take our tools, and let's take a look at those tools. You can find a all-in-one tool that allows you to do the 3 activities with one unit. I personally don't like those. I like the 3-piece sets. I think you get more control over your finished work and your product when you use the 3-piece set, and I also think they're easier to use. What you have here is you have a burr setter. You'll see this tool has a hole in it, and that hole is sized to fit, in this case, the number 12 rivet. If you're going to use a number 9 rivet, you need to get a different set, and same thing with the number 14 rivets, you'll need a different set. I, again, like the number 12 rivets, and so that's how this is sized out. You also have a rounding tool. Once we get our rivet set, we're going to use our nippers, and I'll show those to you in a moment. We're going to cut the post of the rivet down to where it's closer to the burr, and we're going to use our ball peen hammer, and we're going to use this tool to round over the post a bit, because we don't want to have any sharp edges for the customer or in some cases animal to rub up against that could hurt them. And then lastly, we have this doming tool that we can go back with, and this tool is used when we turn our work over, and we can use this doming tool to dome over the head of the rivet. All right, so we've got our hole in our leather set. We've put our rivet in with establishing the head of the rivet as the back. We're now going to put our burr on top, take our setting tool, that's the one with the hole in it, and we're gonna make sure our setting tool is perpendicular. We don't want to lean too far to the left or too far to the right. That would make the rivet itself bend, and that is a bad set. When everything is set flush and when everything is set cleanly. So, rivet there, and then we'll take our, in this case, we'll use my maul, and we're just gonna hammer straight down. That rivet is set. The burr is down there, it's holding it together. Now, that can still pop off. That's not a finished rivet, right? We still need to trim off the post, and we're gonna trim the post, and we're not gonna try to get it all the way flush with the burr itself. We actually wanna leave some of that, I would say anywhere from a little more than a 16th, probably no more than an 1/8 of that post left over. Now, what are we gonna do to use that? You can use a pair of lineman's line cutters, you can use nippers, anything like that. What I prefer to use, what I was taught to use by a saddle maker is, he told me basically to try to work less, don't overextend yourself. So instead, what we're gonna use is a pair of, I've called these concrete nippers. There's a number of different names for them. I know farriers use these for different things, but they're the same thing, right? They're just nippers. The longer the handle on there, the less effort you're going to have to put into trimming off the post. I want to make sure in this case, it looks like I'm touching the leather. I'm just right above the leather. I'm going to trim that off, squeeze, and I usually squeeze and twist a little bit. And you'll see that cleans that. Now, when that happens, when you do that, you're going to see that's a pretty sharp edge. It doesn't trim off in a straight line, right? So we're going to want to do something with that. Some people will go directly in there with their rounding tool. This one here. I like to instead hit that with a ball peen hammer a few times before we start trying to round that over with the rounding tool. I do in my shop have a dedicated ball peen hammer just for that. I don't want to use my cobbler's hammer, my leather hammers. We are going to be hitting metal on metal and keep your nice leather hammers nice and clean. This ball peen hammer that I have in my shop is used just for this. I think I use one a little heavier, but 8 ounces will work just fine as well. Something else you may notice is I am working on top of an anvil. The more solid your surface here, the better it will be as you're tapping these things down, as you are rounding them out. You're letting all that energy go down through the hammer, through the rivet, into the solid surface. In fact, this anvil actually has a piece of leather on top of it. In my shop, we would not have leather on top of it. We actually want to go metal to metal. But this is going to work just fine for today's demonstration. So let's take our ball peen hammer, and we're just going to start lightly tapping. We're not welling on it. We're not going too heavy. The goal is not to just have one hit and round out. It's just not, that doesn't happen. We're just going to tap it lightly. And you can see already the top of that rivet is starting to round over a little bit. And I'm looking at it. I'm not just hitting it indiscriminately. I'm actually looking at it. I'm looking to see if I can, even it out a little bit. I'm moving my hammer left and right. I'm kind of working around in a circle a little bit, just twisting my hand just a little bit to manipulate what direction that metal goes in. And if I still touch this, it's still sharp, right? I don't want to leave it that way. It's on now. That's enough of a doming effect that burr is not going to come off, but we don't want to leave it like that. That's going to catch on something or hurt someone. So keep at it. Again, I'm not hitting hard. Actually, I'm choked up on my hammer a little bit. I'm really using my wrist here to get some momentum going. And I am personally looking for a little bit of a rhythm. If you were to hear me do this in my shop, you're going to hear me basically say every rivet the same way, follow the same rhythm. It's almost like I'm playing a tune. They're that consistent. It's domed over there. It's a good start. Now I can come back with my doming tool or my round over tool. Set that on there. There's a little divot in there. You see that? That's where you want the post to sit. Just situate it, move around a little bit to make sure you're sitting in the divot properly. And not with my ball peen hammer, but I'm going to go back to using my maul. And again, I'm kind of working this around in a circle because I'm trying to shape that post. I'm trying to shape it into a nice rounded mushroom. Still not over exaggerating this. I'm still not hitting it too hard. My goal is not to just well away at it and prove how strong I am. The goal is to manipulate the metal into a shape. I can touch it, come back and see, is it taking shape? It is. You can see that now. It's a little bit of a flat top on the top, and it's rounding over on the sides. I'm touching to make sure that there's no burrs there that are going to catch on anything. There we go. And that's pretty much a set rivet. Right. Now you can continue away at that. You can use your ball peen if you wanted to really shape that up a little bit. I typically don't find that necessary to do. And sometimes I actually go back and I'll hit this one more time. and flatten that out even more. In judgment call here, you can go back to it with your roundover tool and add as much shape to that as you like. But that now is a set rivet. Now on the back side, we have the head of the rivet there. And ideally what we would do, we can take our doming tool and we can round this out. Now, why would you round this out? There's a couple reasons why you want to do this. One, because you don't want anything to catch on it. As the leather wears in and things like that, the leather will move a bit. Something could catch on the little edge of that head of the rivet. Also, while rounding it over, you're giving it a little more bite into the material too. So again, setting the head of the rivet there, giving a nice rounded effect. That one's a little off. We're going to set another one just for example. But now you see now I can't catch any of it, and it's really biting into the leather. So now it's rounded over on both sides. Let's set one more. Let's go to our other corner. There's a hole. We'll put a rivet. What size hole do we want to use? I want to use a hole just large enough to fit the rivet through. In this case, I'm using a 1/8 inch punch. I think that's perfect for almost every rivet. If you go to a number 12 rivet, I'm sorry, a number 9 rivet, which is larger, you may want to go up one size. But I don't want there to be a lot of slop in that hole. In fact, whenever possible, I want to remove the least amount of leather possible. And that slides in there and actually gives me a little tension as I slide in there. I consider that perfect. So number 12 with a 1/8 inch hole, I think is probably a pretty perfect size. All right, so we're going to set another rivet here. Clean up our anvil a little bit. We're going to put the rivet in from the back. Bring your anvil over. I'm going to use this side of the anvil this time. We're going to set our rivet, or excuse me, our burr. The goal here is to set the burr. We want it to be perpendicular. We want it to go straight down. We don't want to bend the shaft or the post of that rivet at all. So go straight down. Oh, perfect. Perfect. That's what I was looking for. Take your nippers, cut it off as cleanly as possible. Little twist. Now we're going to do with that sharp edge, taking my ball peen hammer, my dedicated ball peen hammer. Just working that, all I'm doing is working that metal around. I'm kind of moving the hammer around to kind of shape it up a little bit. That looks really good. Now that we've done that very quickly, I might add, we'll take our rounding tool, find the little divot in that rounding tool, do it again. That looks great. Touching it, there's no burrs on it. Wonderful. And then what we're finally going to do, it's not necessary, especially if you're making bags and things like that, but really it cleans it up a little bit. If you have access to the backside, we can flip this over and we're going to deal with the head there. We're going to make sure that there's nothing that's going to bite, something going across top of it. We're going to use our doming tool. Find the head situated there. We're going to hit it a few times. Dome that over. That's a well set rivet there. Head is domed over. The burr side is domed and smooth. Not going to catch on anything. And that is permanent. It's not going to go anywhere. The only way to get that off now would be to remove the leather so you can get up under it with a pair of nippers, or to drill it out. And I will tell you from experience, drilling out a copper rivet is tough because it heats up a lot. You'll wind up burning the leather up before you get the rivet out. So because of that, use them when you want to do something very strong. You want to hold pieces together in a very durable way, but also be mindful that they don't come apart very easily, which is one of the things we love about them. There you have it, folks. That's how you set a copper or brass rivet. It's pretty easy to do. Nothing you can't do in your work. I appreciate you taking the class today, and I appreciate you allowing me a chance to show them to you.